My fiancée cheated on me with her ex, then came back to me begging for forgiveness because the affair partner got her pregnant. So I did this. So I've been reading posts for a few days now, looking for solutions to my own situation. I don't know if this is the right sub or not. I'm new to Reddit, and I'm trying to find advice from people who are or have been in the same situation as me. Fiancée cheated and put the blame on me and my ex. Everyone feels sorry for her and asks me to forgive her. First of all, I would like to apologize in advance for my vocabulary and my expressions. I am French and English is therefore not my native language. It has now been about 2 weeks since I discovered that my fiancée, Marie, cheated on me with her ex because, according to her, she felt insecure because of my ex, Samia. It's the dumbest excuse I've heard in my life. But the worst thing is that everyone agrees with her and pressures me to forgive her. I want to hear the opinion of people who are not concerned. I will try to give a little background. It may be long. Samia and I is a long story. We met when we were both 3 years old. Her mother was a nanny at home and looked after several children, including me. We were so inseparable that our mothers became friends and decided to put us in the same school. So I practically spent my entire childhood until I was 13 with Samia. We were called the Siamese back then. We used to argue a lot, but we were always united with the other children, which meant that we were ostracized, but we didn't care as long as we had each other. When we were 11, our family started to think it wasn't healthy and that we needed to make other friends. It was while trying to separate us that we realized that we were deeply in love with each other, but our families were very conservative. She is of Arab origin and I am of African origin, so we hid the fact of dating. One night when I was 13, I made the mistake of going up to her room, which was on the first floor, through her window. It was dangerous but exciting. I had done that a few times before. We were just chatting at the time and kissing sometimes, nothing else. But that day, her father opened her door without warning. He caught us kissing and tried to call the police. I tried to escape through the window. I fell. I broke my arm. All the neighbors were out, and it went scandal. The whole neighborhood talked about it. Her father never liked me. He wanted to file a complaint against me. Even if I was not risking much at that age, it was still very humiliating for my family. My father therefore decided to send me to Africa to stay there for an indefinite period, but it was mainly to separate us. I tried to adapt to my new life. She also tried to adapt to her new life, but in the end, we had managed to keep in contact. We spoke via the internet, and when I came back to France after high school, it was as if we had never left each other. We continued to date in secret, and at 20, for us, it was clear that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. We were naive to think it was going to be that simple. We decided to tell our families, saying that we intended to get married, but for them, it was as if we had announced the apocalypse. Our respective families wanted everyone to get married in this culture. It caused a lot of tension in the neighborhood. Already when we were little, we had made a lot of noises and everyone always talked about us and gave their opinion on our lives. It was very painful. We tried to hold on for a year. She wanted us to go and finish our studies in another city very far from Paris and her families. But my father was sick at the time. I decided to stay, and when my father died, I didn't no longer have the strength to fight. I decided to break up, and she decided to go to another city. We had completely lost contact. I was tired of living in the neighborhood where people always talked about us. I chose to move to the student residence of a university. It was a terrible year. I came back to see my family on the weekends, and one day at a wedding, I met Marie. She had just moved to the neighborhood with her family. We were at the same table. We had spent that evening making jokes. We told each other about our lives. I told her about Samia, and she told me about her ex. She told me that she had left her ex after 2 years of her relationship because she did not want to sleep before marriage, but her ex could not hold on anymore. She told him to marry her then, but he was not ready, so she decided to end the relationship. We were two souls in pain. We had become friends over time. We went out together, but I realized that she was getting more and more irritated when I told her about Samia, so I stopped. One day she told me that she had feelings for me. I told her that I still had Samia in my heart. She told me that it was an opportunity to forget her. I agreed to date her. It was weird at first to be with another woman, but eventually I got used to it and started to like her. As time passed, she became more and more jealous of Samia, but I never spoke about her again after she confessed. It was weird she acted that way. I lived on campus, so I didn't know what was said in the neighborhood where I came from, but apparently people were talking about my old stories with Samia, telling anecdotes here and there. At the time, I broke my arm trying to escape to the window and other anecdotes. I reassured Marie by saying that was the past, but she always compared herself to Samia. It's true that Samia was very beautiful, but that was beyond my control. She blamed me for having dated such a beautiful woman, yet she never saw her. Maybe in a photo, I don't know. I always told her that she was the most beautiful in my eyes because she was the one who counted now, but she always had to compare herself to Samia. If we did activities together, she asked me if I had already done it with Samia. What she couldn't stand was that I was intimate with Samia. In short, it was becoming unbearable. Despite everything, I asked her to marry me. She was from the same culture as me, so it suited my family. I did not have the strength to fight again for this kind of thing. The wedding was to take place in August. A perfect timing for me because I will have finished my studies in July. Other than her insecurity, everything seemed fine until 2 weeks ago when I got a call from a number I didn't know from a guy who introduced himself as her ex. He told me that he and Marie were still seeing each other and that they had slept together several times. I didn't believe him. I thought his ex was trying to sabotage our relationship, but he sent me the screenshots of their discussion. I told him that these things could be easily fabricated. He then asked me to meet. I wanted to warn Marie, but I told myself that I would go first. I had 2 kinds of my friends accompany me in case he tried to trick me. Then he showed me his phone, the Marie's number, their discussions, etc. Everything was there. They saw each other for 2 months and Marie decided to put an end to their affair a week before he contacted me. I called Marie directly. I told her that we needed a talk. At the time, oddly, I felt no anger, no positive or negative feelings. I was like a spectator watching his life in a film. A friend of mine had the good idea to ask me to record a confrontation. That's what I did. When I told her what I knew, she was shocked. She told me that it wasn't true that the guy was trying to destroy a relationship. So I showed her the screenshots. She said the same thing I said to the guy, that it was something that could be easily made. I told her I went to see the guy, and he showed me his phone. Their discussion of the details about our life that he couldn't know. There, she broke down and started crying and asking me for forgiveness. I was at her house and in her room. Her family came to see what was happening. I explained the situation to them. They didn't believe me. I didn't try to convince them. I left. They contacted my family before I arrived in my family's house. I explained to my mother what had happened. Apparently, Marie explained to them that it was because I was seeing Samia in secret that she did it. Apparently, Samia was back in town when I didn't even know it. Now everyone says it's because of her. Marie put herself as the victim and Samia and me as the villain. I was so angry that I decided to cut off contact with everyone. It's been 10 days since I've spoken to anyone in the neighborhood. I've stayed with a friend from school so no one knows where I am. I put my phone off and only contact my mother on email. I also receive a ton of email from Marie, but I deleted each of them without reading them. I just pretty much the story. I don't even know what I'm going to do next. Everyone asks me to forgive her, but there is no possibility for me to do so. I only feel disgust for her, but I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to handle the situation. It is complicated. Any advice? Update. Hello, folks. Well, it's been a while since my 23 male first post. I've been receiving a lot of support in my DMs, and I can't thank you all enough. People ask me for an update, so here we go. I put a link above to my first post for those who want to see some context. D-Day was very close to my finals, so it's like I was numb and feel like I was an autopilot all along my exams. There was nothing else that mattered in that period, and honestly focusing on myself was all I needed, and now I'm officially an engineer. I remained in no contact, whether Marie, ex-fiancée, a 22 female, her family, my family, or anyone who minded my business. But in the evening after my exams, when I finally get back to my apartment, everything came back like a big wave that fell on me. I was tired and felt abandoned by everyone. I was very anxious about the messages I was going to receive when I turned on my phone, so I didn't. I just wanted to sleep. I read that most people have mind movies of their significant other with their fair partner. I get those images, but oddly, it was me with Marie. I pictured a lot of times we cuddled, making out, etc., and I felt dirty. I kept scratching myself, and going to take a shower to clean myself from the feeling of getting dirty. I did that twice in that evening. I had trouble falling asleep in my bed. I scratched again because it reminded me of all those times Marie and I were sleeping in the bed, so I lay down on the floor. The next day, every time the images were too much to handle, I'd started scratching again and went showering to feel clean. I did that 8 times. Right now, I am doing it like 3 to 4 times a day. I'm afraid I will damage my skin. Has this ever happened to any of you? Hope it's not a compulsive mental illness. So the next day, I turned on my phone. The messages kept coming. There were over 200 text messages and many voicemails. I didn't read any of them. I deleted everything. I didn't have the strength to go through the same crap where people told me the same things again and again. I decided to go to my family's house. I couldn't keep hiding any longer. I already knew I was going to find people there like every Saturday. I have never been so stressed in my life. When I get home, I found there my uncle, my father's brother, and self-proclaimed head of the family after my father passed away. His wife, whom I will call Witch because, well, she is a witch. Their children, a few family friends as well as my siblings, 13 male, 9 male, and 5 female. For some reason, my mother wasn't there. As soon as I got there, my uncle started yelling at me, and I didn't even acknowledge him. Just seeing my little sister running to me for a hug was a blessing. God, I love this little girl. All my siblings see me as a role model. I felt guilty for not talking to them all this time. Usually, when I am there on the weekends, I help with their homework. I do put the youngest to bed and told them some stories that my father used to tell me. And when I am in my own apartment, we manage to talk every night to see how their day was. We are very close to each other, but my uncle won't stop yelling at me. So I got pissed off. I was sitting in front of everyone like I was getting an audition for a jury, which asked me if I found back my sanity. Apparently Marie changed her version. She said she didn't sleep with her fair partner, they just kissed. She said I put so much pressure on her that she confessed something that she didn't do. And I know what I saw in a fair partner's phone. This girl called Marie, I don't know who she is anymore. She turned out to be such a manipulative person. How can someone hide such a vicious nature for so long? Or am I such a fool who wasn't able to notice anything? Before we started dating, she told me lying was a deal breaker, that what she hated most in the world was narcissistic perverts. Well, she embodies everything she hates. It's beyond my little mind. Well, at that point, I didn't care anymore. I've told everyone what I've been through, and that they have the choice to believe either me they've known my whole life or someone they've known a little longer than a year, which told me that it was impossible, because Marie is a sweet and loving girl who helps the community and who even volunteers. Well, I told her that was irrelevant because even Hitler volunteered in some point of his life. My uncle said if that's true, that Marie slept with the fair partner, that I had the right to not continue the relationship, as if I needed some permission to pursue any of my relationships. But when Witch said that it doesn't matter if it was true because it would be just a mistake, my baby, my uncle immediately agreed with her. He's the biggest fool I have ever known. He may have an opinion, but as soon as his wife says otherwise, he changes his mind. I wouldn't even be surprised if his wife cheated on him and he knew it. He's a real doormat. But maybe he is literally afraid of his wife. He is very small compared to her. If you see them walking hand in hand at night, you would think of a lady walking with her child. But then, which tells me to confess it was because of Samia, 23 female. I stayed calm. I replied that I hadn't heard from Samia for 2 years. My uncle told me if it wasn't because of Samia, I can easily forgive Marie. I couldn't take it anymore. I told him, okay, I will forgive Marie if he let me sleep with Witch for 2 months. There it became chaos. My uncle wanted to hit me, but the family friends told him. I tell them they were hypocrites. They asked me to forgive what they couldn't even imagine on their side. And now I didn't allow anyone to interfere in my life. Witch was crying and my uncle said he would never forgive me and I was dead to them. In the moment, I didn't care. I went up to my room because I still have a room there. I felt some regrets actually because they were still my family. I admit that I started having doubts about the reliability of what a fair partner showed me, and for a short time I was wondering if I could forgive her. If it was just a kiss, well, I came to the conclusion I couldn't. Never. When I was little and my parents couldn't pick me up after school because of their work, it was our neighbor who took care of it because he also had 2 children in the same school. Then I stayed at his place until the evening. He took good care of me, treated me like his child. He gave me little candies each time, gave me presents. I loved him very much. He was a great man in the eyes of everyone, and this kind, helpful man committed suicide one day because his wife had an affair. This is what cheating can do, and I heard a year after that his wife ended up moving to Canada with the kids and her affair partner. Even my hatred of cheating came from that event. So I won't burn myself out to give warmth to others by getting back with Marie. Even though, honestly, I don't get why people are trying so hard to get me back with Marie and how the heck it would benefit them. Anyway, my mother came back. I guess they told her what happened. She came in my room and the first thing she did was hugging me, asking me about my feelings and my finals. She is such a lovely human being despite the fact that she mostly communicates her love through her actions rather than by words. I remember a few years ago I used to work in a fast food while studying. I often came back home around 2 a.m. and she was there waiting for me, and we had small talks while I ate the dinner she reheated for me. We were having a hard time not waking up everybody with our laugh, so we talked about what happened with my uncle and his wife, and I gave her the full version of why I have to break up Marie. In my last post, I didn't mention the fact I only told my mother that Marie cheats on me, but not in what extent, so she believed like everyone else that it was just a kiss. She was sorry for what I was going through, but what surprised me the most were the fact that she was crying. While it was the first time in my life I saw my mom crying, even when my father passed away, she was still smiling and trying to be the support system we needed and would cry only in the night in her room when she thought everyone was sleeping. I had a breakdown seeing her crying and I couldn't stop myself to cry. In that moment she hugged me and I started having a bunch of feelings like sadness, anger, hatred. I felt the hurt deeply. She told me she would accept any decision I made. My mom came back downstairs and everyone left. I didn't ask what she told him. I didn't care that much. I put off again my phone for the next week because I was too tired. I spent most of that time sleeping and catching up with my siblings, gaming with them, and trying to deal with the pain I was feeling. My mother did receive a call from Marie's parents several times, and she only told me once she felt I was in a good place to talk about it. Apparently Marie was having a bad time. She spent some time in the hospital and she was going insane because I went no contact. Marie's parents begged my mom to meet me just one time. So even though she told me I don't have to, I agreed to meet with them, with Marie, next Saturday. Marie led the narrative all that time, so it is my turn to do so. I don't know how it's going to be, and if I should have them come to my house or go to their home, but I will be ready. In my last post, someone gave me the idea of calling her a fair partner, pretending that I might be giving her a second chance if I don't have enough proof. Well, that's what I did yesterday, and I will see him tomorrow, Sunday. He said there is far more to the story I know. He said he won't send me proof because I might show it to Marie and then won't have a shot to win her back. But he will show and tell me everything. We will see. Oh yes, people keep asking how things are going between me and Samia. I said in my last post, I will contact her to apologize for having her name associated in this mess, even if it's not my fault. Well, before I could do it, she contacted me by email. It's not what you think. She was super mad and didn't understand why people keep telling her she's messing up my couple. But at least, she was kind enough to ask me if I was okay with all this mess. I saw the message 2 days ago. I didn't respond yet. I don't even know what to write. I'm like a brainless odd guy right now, but I will do it between the meeting of Marie's affair partner and her family. I will update you guys. Thanks y'all. Update. Hey guys, a quick update, I guess. So I met yesterday with Marie's affair partner. I'm too tired to give all the details because the situation is becoming really heavy. I met him in the same place as the first time. I of course record everything. Long story short, they dated 4 years on and off and Marie never was the virgin she claimed to be. Nor was he the first man with whom she slept. He was, and still is, crazy about her even though Marie cheated twice. He was willing to work through it each time. But somehow Marie gets pregnant, and she didn't know who the father was. Still, he was willing to accept the baby as his and didn't want to do a paternity test. Marie's parents got to learn about the pregnancy and wanted her to abort. He says due to the stress, she eventually had a miscarriage. She was too depressed, and her family decided to relocate in order to start fresh. He says it's that time where Marie began to develop the idea of born-again virgin, whatever that means. According to him, she felt like her miscarriage is a punishment due to the way she used to live her life. She broke up with him, and they decided to stay friends. So far, he didn't show me any proof. He says he had changed his phone in the meantime, but he showed me discussions they had during the whole period that I knew Marie. In the texts, Marie said she met someone, me, who had the kind of old romantic relationship she always wanted to experience with someone. Over time, she said I was a good guy and she could build something with me. And through our relationship, a fair partner became someone she confided in when she was insecure. So he knows practically everything about our relationship. He told me details that only me and Marie know. He says Marie didn't like me at first. She liked the idea that I was able to have an amazing relationship in the past, and she wanted the same. She thinks that Marie still doesn't love me. She just loves the idea of having me completely, and she never felt that she had me completely, so it became an obsession. Well, I don't know if the first part of this story is true or not, but I know that everything he's told me since I've known Marie is corroborated by evidence. I'm getting angrier and angrier, and it's a feeling I'm not comfortable with. I don't want to meet Marie's family, but I don't know if it's true that they knew from the start what their daughter was. What is certain is that now I no longer want to meet Marie. I have this huge need to take all of the evidence and send that to all the people I know, because it is unfair that I, who was born and lived in my neighborhood, must bear the consequences of her BS. But at the same time, I don't want to do things like that. I do have a lot of respect for Marie's parents. I should just send them my evidence and ask them for explanations before deciding whether or not I will meet them. Thank you for all your support on my 2 previous posts and in my DMs. I'm losing my mind right now, while many of you have lived for years with your spouse who cheated on you, and some even have children with them. It might be my last update if nothing new happens, so thank you all, and I wish a lot of courage to those who are going through difficult times because of infidelity. Update. Hey guys, I didn't think I would do an update anymore, but I got a lot of messages asking me what happened since my last update. I would first like to thank those who left comments in my last post. I wasn't in a good place back then, but I read all of them and appreciated all of your advice and comfort. So to the question, did I meet Marie and her family? Yes, I met them. I met them at my house with my mom. Before the meeting, I had sent a long audio message to Marie's parents telling them everything I learned from her affair partner and saying I was tired of her playing the victim and painting me as the villain. There was nothing left to be saved in the relationship, but if the rumors keep going, I was willing to expose Marie in our social circle because it was unfair to suffer from something that I did not do. I told them I had to cancel the meeting unless she comes clean. Immediately, Marie's mother called me and said Marie had finally told them everything. She had removed her post and came clean in all of her social networks. I don't use Snapchat or Instagram, so I couldn't say if it was true. I had to call one of our mutual friends to check, and yes, she came clean. I felt trapped in my own game because, given how important it is to save appearances in her traditional family like Marie's, I thought she would never do that, so I maintained the meeting. I thought it would be difficult to meet Marie, since every time I thought back to our moments, I saw myself scratching a lot. I thought seeing her would be too much, but in the end, it wasn't. When we met, I almost didn't recognize her. She lost weight in such a short time. She looked very sad and lost. She couldn't put her eyes on me. She didn't even talk to me. We were in our living room and had small talk at the beginning until her mother started to beg me to take her back. She was very insecure. That's why she did what she did. I had already prepared myself on what I wanted to say and the questions I had, so I did not deviate from that. I first asked Marie, why did she lie about her past and pretend to be someone she wasn't? She started crying and wouldn't look at me. Her mother said she was always judged on her past and asked me if I knew the truth, was I going to still date her. I told her that the answers to the ifs weren't important at that point. It just led to imaginary paths, and the only path that mattered was the one where she chose to lie about her past, and that brought us to where we are. It was the only reality, and in that reality, I've been in a relationship all this time with someone who didn't exist, who lied to me, and who I'll never know what's true in anything she ever said to me. In short, her parents kept defending her, but Marie still wouldn't speak. The discussion went around in circles, and in some point, seeing how determined I was, they asked me, for the sake of the love I ever had for their daughter, to postpone the wedding and take the summer to think about everything. I didn't expect that request. It confused me. I did not know what to say. My mother, who had been silent from the start, saw that I was struggling to answer. She said she had already spoken with me, that I had already made my mind, and if in the future I come to change my mind, she will advise me not to do so, but will still support my choice. She said the meeting was to give them a closure and not to consider a reconciliation. She told them I was traumatized. I lacked sleep and that I had been acting weird since then. About me scratching myself, nobody spoke for a while. Marie asked to speak to me in private. She insisted it was not to convince me, that she would accept my decision if I gave her a one-on-one. I told her I didn't think it was a good idea to be in a room alone, but we could go outside to walk, and that's what we did. We walked for about half an hour. It was the first time I felt her so vulnerable, and where she finally took accountability for her actions. She told me that it was true that she had promiscuous past. She never had any trauma that explains this. She grew up in a loving family. It was probably just her nature, but she started having sex at 12. At 15, she used to have different partners at the same time. At 18, she had already slept with 40 people, and she had stopped counting after that. She told me she had never known love before me. She just looked in sex for a way to be loved and to seek validation. She was loved by the fair partner. She never knew a man could love her the way the fair partner did. She thought that was what she was looking for. Ultimately, she couldn't love a fair partner the way he did. She couldn't stop sleeping with other guys because the only time she thinks she could love was when she was getting intimate with someone. But after that, the feeling disappeared and only remained a feeling of emptiness. She eventually got pregnant, started loving her unborn child, but had a miscarriage. And that's when she started questioning her whole life. Her family moved away so she could start over. She broke up with a fair partner because she didn't love him, but he was a good person and loved their friendship, so they never stopped communicating. Even before meeting me, she had heard of me and Samia. The first time was in a fast food restaurant where Samia and I used to eat. We were friends with the owner's son, and he knew us too, and used to offer us kebabs. He always used to take pictures of his loyal customers and other things and put them on the walls of his restaurant. Among the photos, there were two with me and Samia, one where we were 11 and another where we were 19. Everyone in the neighborhood knew the story behind the 19-year-old picture. It was my birthday. I was born in September, so Samia had worked all summer to be able to give me a dream birthday. She bought me a tuxedo and she put on a nice evening dress. She rented a limo waiting for me in the front of my house. She promised me a dream evening. We got into the limo, but 200 meters later, the limo stopped. She said we had arrived at our destination, but we got off in front of the modest fast food. I was too embarrassed to have put on a suit, have a ride in a limo, and ended up at that fast food restaurant. She had that kind of humor, but that was cool. We ordered the same kebabs that the owner used to offer us, and she bought a muffin and put a candle on it, lit it, and asked me to blow on it. The owner had taken a picture in that moment and liked to tell the prank that Samia had done to me. Even if she did give me the greatest birthday after, but that is another story. So when Marie found out about the story, she asked for more. People told her other things here and there, and that's when she said she wanted to experience this kind of love. When she met me and knew that I was the guy in the picture, she wanted to show me. She was intimidated by the story she heard of me, and before she knew it, she had started lying to hide her past. And when she realized that she was already attached to me, she couldn't take those lies back, because if she told me the truth, I would never want to see her again. She felt guilty throughout her relationship. She discovered that she was in love with me, and it was the first time she felt love without having to sleep with someone. And the only reason other than her lies, she couldn't sleep with me, where she was scared that her love would vanish after that. Our relationship was everything for her, but she thought the lies she told meant that we had no future if I found out. She felt unworthy of me, and that's what fed her insecurity about losing me, and she hated herself so much she was sabotaging the relationship, and one of her behaviors was going back to her demons and cheating on me with her fair partner. She had to be hit her hard when I found out the truth, and that's where she lost herself. She didn't know she was able to turn into a monster in order to try to keep me in her life. She made up excuses. She tried to guilt me into staying with her. When she realized it wasn't going to work, she passed out and spent time in a hospital. She didn't want to live anymore, not because she lost me, but because she realized what she had become, and it was unbearable. She says she didn't want to force me to be with her anymore, and even if I forgive her, she would never forgive herself. She says she started going to therapy to find out why she did what she did and who she really was. She says it might be a long process, but if I could find compassion in my heart to forgive her and help her be a better person, she would be grateful to me all her life. I wasn't gonna, but at that moment I was so weak when I heard her request that I almost agreed to keep in touch in order to help her. I had so much empathy with this woman who hurt me. It was crazy, but I knew from that moment I saw her that the feelings I had for her no longer existed. I explained to her that I needed to distance myself to heal, and that she didn't need me to heal, that she thinks she needs me, but to heal she has to face things herself, and that's the only way she can grow out of it. She said she already knew what I was going to say, but if she didn't try, she would have regrets all of her life. She tells me she accepts my decision, but she is not giving up on me, and she will seek to become the best version of herself, and she believes in the future we will reunite. I wanted to tell her that I could never be with someone who cheated on me, or who has cheated before, but I kept quiet. I just said that I had moved on, and that it wasn't good for her if I gave her hope. She said nothing. We ended up talking about something else. Her parents contacted her and told her they were already home, so I walked her at her house. Before going, I told her I will be no contact. It was the only healthy way to heal. She agreed, but that will be so hard because we will be in the same neighborhood and we might run into each other from time to time. She asked me for a last hug. I hugged her. I left, and frankly I felt lighter after this talk. I had no more anger, and I still have no anger in me. Maybe it will come back in the future, as I have been told healing is not linear. That's basically the meeting. So, to the question, did I meet Simia? Yes. I met Simia twice, but I'm not sure this is the right sub to talk about it. Maybe I'll do a final update before going to my summer vacation for anyone interested to find out what happened and where I'm going from here. Thank you all. You are a great help all along. Update. I'm about to make some decisions that can change the rest of my life. Iguis. Hope you are all doing well. I've been asked a lot to do an update. I was on vacation, so I couldn't do it sooner. I don't know if it's a rant, or if I am asking for advice, support, or all them at once. Well, since I met Samia, I'm about to make decisions that could change my whole life, and I'm full of doubts right now. The first meeting. I already knew that Samia was back in town, and it was only a matter of time before we ran into each other, and we surely did in a supermarket. I was with my siblings, and she was with her mom. For the record, I was, and still am, very close to her mother. I always see her as a second mom because she took care of me when I was little. We never lost contact. We call each other once a month. Samia also kept in touch with my mom. So unlike our fathers, our mothers never had issues with us being together. Samia's dad has always been endogamous. According to him, marrying people inside the same ethnicity was the only way to keep the culture alive. My father, on the other hand, was very proud of his origins. At first, he wasn't against us, but when he heard one day that Samia's father had insulted me in public when he caught us holding hands in the street, my dad didn't want us to be together anymore. He said black people have suffered greatly from racism and humiliation throughout history, and trying to convince people to accept us because we are black is like giving reason to those who hate us and invalidate the fight of all the people who fought for our rights. From there, other members of each family got involved, and we had the feeling our relationship no longer belonged to us. Despite everything, I always had support from Samia's mom, as well as she had support from mine. When we broke up, I didn't want both our mothers to update me about Samia's life as it was too painful. They respect that. I know Samia was still speaking to my mom, but I never mind their business. That day in the supermarket, I couldn't help staring at her. She was even more beautiful than I remembered. That was crazy, 2 years without seeing each other, and here we were. I didn't know what to say, so I focused on her mom, and this traitor LOL made fun of the situation and left us alone, because we had things to talk about. She quietly continued her shopping, bringing my brothers with her so me and Samia could talk. I can't tell you exactly what we said to each other because I was so nervous that I was on the verge of fainting. In the end, we didn't say anything interesting. We exchanged our numbers so we can talk later. The next day I called her, and we decided we will meet in a restaurant in 3 days. Before the meeting, we ended up talking on the phone for hours each day. Basically, She explained to me what she has been doing for the past 2 years. She just graduated and will start in September a job that allows her to work from home or anywhere. It also gives her time to follow manga workshops. She has always been very good in drawing and in storytelling and has always wanted to write her own manga but never had the courage to try. Now she is willing to make the step but wanted at first to secure a diploma and a job. She talked about her ambitions and projects, and honestly, in 2 years, this girl has evolved more than I could have imagined. At the end, it wasn't even a surprise because she always knew what she wanted and how to get there. I, on the other hand, was the shame in the neighborhood. Every time I saw faces when I went out, I wondered if they were talking about me and my failure with Marie. If they were making fun of me for having been such a stupid blind idiot for not even knowing the person I was about to spend the rest of my life. The second meeting. When we met the second time, it was obvious that my feelings for her never stopped to exist. I love her. Always have, always will, and I feel like there is nothing I can do to change that. I mean, I loved her since I was a child. I grew up, I am not anymore the same person. My values evolved, my principles too, but the only thing that never changed is the love I have for her. I missed her. I missed our talks. I missed my best friend, and I missed the love of my life. It took me seeing her twice and a few conversations on the phone to realize that.
Godam, I'm pathetic.
I thought I knew everything about myself, about my needs, my wants, and the life I was about to build with Marie. And I wonder what would have happened if Marie had done nothing wrong to me and I had met Samia. Will I have embodied what I hate most in the world by breaking Marie's heart or cheating on her? I don't know. I'm weaker than I thought. My principles may be less solid than I thought. I remember the words of an old man. He told me that we were all deceivers. Some already know it and others don't know it yet. We were all ticking time bombs that would go off when all the parameters came together. It didn't take much to become everything we've always hated. I told him it was his way of rationalizing who he was, but maybe he was right. Maybe Samia could be a cheater too if the parameters came together. She was the only person I could blindly say she would never do that. She has such a high degree of integrity and principle that I hate myself for thinking she could do something like that. But I am no longer sure how much a flower could hide a snake behind. So when I asked her about her dating stories in the last 2 years, she told me she has never been with anyone. I had a hard time believing her. I mean, she is such beautiful girl, intelligent, confident, loving, generous, with a sense of humor that makes you never get bored with her. I told her that it wasn't true, that we weren't together, and that she didn't have to try to spare me. She was a little confused about my reaction at first, then she smiled, telling me given what I went through, she understand that I could make some projections and doubt about everything, but I have to work on it ASAP before it becomes a big issue in my life. She said I should leave the neighborhood and go on vacation to clear my mind. I told her I did not want to go on vacation alone. My siblings were supposed to go to Senegal while I was on honeymoon, and that I did not see myself going there with them. It is a country with an incredible sense of hospitality where you are surrounded by people all the time, and that was not what I needed. She asked me to go on vacation with her because we had a lot to talk about. And without hesitation, I said okay. It's crazy. We haven't seen or talked to each other for 2 years, and now we were planning a vacation together. The vacation. When I announced this to my mom, she was very worried, but strangely not for me. She told me not to break Samia's heart and to behave honorably, like no sex before marriage lol. We decided to go to one of the center parks, holiday villages in Europe and France. We rented a cottage with 2 bedrooms. It was an incredible place to be. There was nature, old castles, farms. The air was clean. There was a lot of activity to do. In the first evening, I wanted to talk about what happened 2 years ago, the pain I caused her and how things have been for her. But she told me that it was not about her. She had made the trip to be a support system. She said I was already been KO and that she did not want to add more lol, but she promised we will talk about it at the end of our stay. So I didn't push and tried to enjoy our vacation, and it was one of the best I ever have. We laughed like children. We played. We cycled for miles every day. It was the perfect place to be. When one of us felt the other needs space, we just hang out alone or being there without talking. That was very great. It's like we've never been apart. Finally, we discussed our breakup on the last day we were due home. She asked me if I was getting better and if I still wanted to have this discussion because it won't be pleasant. I told her that I was ready. My God, I was not ready. She started by telling me how she felt when we broke up. She asked me how it was possible for me to abandon her just like that after so many years of building the best relationship we could have. How I could have been so stupid, so unaged to abandon her when she was fighting for us and she had turned her back on her whole family for me, for us, because she always knew that I was the one. She never doubted us, her, or me. She was ready to make a great sacrifice to build the life we always wanted to build, the careers we always wanted to have, the family we always wanted, the trips, the projects. How could I have let her down like that? At that moment she was crying. She was so angry that she was shaking. She told me when she left, she promised herself that she would never be in a relationship again. Because if I could do that to her after so many years of building what we had and the struggles through which we passed, anyone else could do it too. She didn't want to go through such pain again and give someone else the opportunity to hurt her like this. She found an escape in her studies and at the library. Then she learned that I was with Marie a year after our breakup. She thought, when we've known each other since childhood and we had the relationship we had, 1 year wasn't enough to move on. She said to herself that I was not the person she thought she knew. She was tired of being a prisoner of her love for me when there were a lot of guys who were interested in her, and she didn't even consider once to flirt with anyone. She never wanted anyone's attention and never sought validation from anyone else. She had come to the conclusion that she was not normal and something had to change. So she started talking with a guy and then went to a restaurant, then to the cinema, and on their third meeting, the guy took her hand. She was so uncomfortable that she thought she would faint. She just had an urge to vomit. She felt like she was cheating on me. It's crazy. I was with another woman. We broke up and still she couldn't even grab someone else's hand. She understood that she needed help, so she began to see a therapist for several months. She decided to act on things she can control like her academic success, her career, and her life choices. As for me, she hated me deep down, especially when she knew I was going to get married. She came back to see her family after her finals, and because she didn't see them for 2 years, she rarely spoke to her father and wanted to fix their relationship as she figured I wasn't worth the fight she had with her dad. When she heard Marie had cheated on me, her first reaction was to say that it was karma. But she was worried about me. She knew how abject infidelity was to me. When she saw me, she was still angry, but she realized that this hate didn't exist, that she never hated me, and it drove her crazy to feel so weak in front of me when she had always made logical decisions in her life. She was independent and knew how to find what she wanted in her life on her own. She realized that she loved me, and that love never went away and probably never will. It didn't make sense to her. But even if she loved me so much, she wouldn't want to be with me. She didn't want to be with someone who would leave her at the slightest difficulty. She didn't want to relive what she had been through. She came to the conclusion I wasn't a reliable person, and she didn't want to be in a relationship where she would always have the fear of being abandoned. Despite everything, she came to cry in my arms and said to me, "You see, I keep doing irrational things and it kills me." I didn't speak. I listened to her throughout and didn't try to justify myself. I told her there was an explanation for all of this, but if I did it right now, it would be like if I was not listening and I was invalidating how she felt. Finally, I told her that I would have never went with her after my father died because it was my responsibility to take care of my siblings and not leave my mother alone with 3 children. But I should never have broken up with her. I should have let her go and I should have proposed a LDR as we've been already there in the past. I told her that I don't know what my word is worth to her, but I sincerely meant it and I apologized for not being able to make the right decision and hurting her in this way. I probably didn't deserve a second chance with her because I was realizing that I wasn't the strong, confident person I thought I was. But I missed her. I missed what we had and I apologize. She also apologized for putting me in a position of deciding whether to come with her or stay with my family, that she had been selfish for only considering her pain and not considering the responsibilities I had. The discussion lasted for more than 3 hours. It was heavy, but we needed it. Weirdly, she told me that not wanting a relationship right away, not trying to justify my choices, and feeling lost makes her realize that I've gained a lot in maturity. She said I used to always have the need to think that I had to be perfect, that I always had to make the right decisions and lead by example. My dilemmas. If there's one thing I'm sure of right now, it's that I'll love this girl all my life. That's the only thing I'm sure of. The rest is a mess. First dilemma. 3 months ago, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to pass the last school exams of my whole life, become an information systems engineer, get married, go on honeymoon, and start working in October in the company in which I had been doing my internship for more than 6 months, and who had offered me a contract with a very good salary. Everything was planned. And it happened what happened, and since then nothing is the same. I always thought I was going to do a PhD after engineering school because that's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to do research. But when I decided to marry Marie, I thought it was better to work directly after graduating because she would still have a year of study left, and I had to be the breadwinner. Now I don't really know if I should pursue my first plan, if it's not too late to have a thesis subject. Second dilemma. If we have to start over again, Samia will never want to live in the neighborhood. Our last year together exhausted her mentally and physically. She never wants to go through such a trauma again. The problem is that I can't leave Paris even if I wanted to. I can't abandon my siblings when they are so little. I have to guide them, watch over them as I promised my father. It's hard growing up in this neighborhood, and besides, I can't leave my mother to fend for herself. I will guide them until the first goes to university and the last goes to middle school. There is something Samia said to me that bothered me a lot. She said I needed my siblings more than they needed me, and I was trying to convince myself that they are dependent on me so I can feed my own dependency on them. She said I was not their father and that I had to stop trying to replace my dad. It's something that's hard to hear, but she's the type to tell her unpleasant truths. Third dilemma. I don't know if it's a good idea to be so close to Samia when I have so many doubts myself. Even if we both admitted that we loved each other, I'm not in the best conditions to start a romantic relationship again, and I'm afraid of hurting her because it's too soon. We both want to start being friends, but the sexual tension between us during those holidays was so intense that I had to meditate every morning to not make a move on her. I'm not the best version of myself right now, but on the other hand, I don't want to push her away and miss this chance because I know there won't be another one. So I don't know where to go from here. Next step. She advised me to do individual therapy for myself. I accepted. I have already made appointments in September for online sessions until I get used to the therapist. She also offered to do therapy with her, because even if we choose to stay friends, we have to learn to trust each other again and to heal. I agree with that. For now, we have decided to travel around France in a motorhome during the month of September. She can work while we're on the road. I can reflect on myself while looking for a thesis director. I could also take this opportunity to see what my siblings are doing without me helping them on everything. It will be an exciting adventure that we can afford financially. Here is where I am with a lot of decisions to make. I arrived on Reddit lost, not knowing what to do or how to do it. Without this support, I don't think I will be where I am today. So thank you all. I will continue to take advice and suggestions from you guys, and feel free to ask any questions. The next time I will post will probably be in October after the trip. Thank you all. We have a update after 1 year from D-Day. Hi friends from the internet, it's been a while. Lately, I've had some time to rest, and I thought I'd take the time to give an update. Throughout this year, I've received DM asking for news, but I felt like I was constantly chasing time with my job. I came here a little over a year ago to seek the support I couldn't find within my circle, and I'm truly grateful for the help you provided. For those who aren't familiar with my story, you can check my history. Without further delay, here's what my life has become since my last post. Me. I'm doing very well. Over the past year, I've been going to the gym several times a week. What initially started as a way to cope with infidelity has become a hobby. I was considering pursuing a doctorate, but I've decided to work instead. I can always pursue it in 2 or 3 years when my siblings are more independent. I've been in therapy for a year. Originally, I was supposed to attend therapy to deal with Marie's infidelity, but I stayed for various reasons. I'm improving steadily, and the chapter with Marie is behind me. Oh yes, I'll soon be marrying Samia. Samia, she's doing very well. She's the best thing that's happened to me in my life, and I now believe that things happen for a reason. Just like me, she was in therapy. We also underwent couples therapy for 4 months. Goodness, facing so much resentment and unspoken feelings was uncomfortable and heavy, but ultimately, it was the best thing for us. Our therapist told us that we didn't need him anymore and genuinely believed we will be good. However, Samia and I decided to have a session every 2 to 3 months. She's very ambitious, works a lot, and plans to start her own business. It's crazy to think that we'll be getting married so young, right at the beginning of our careers. I know it's crazy. Barely a year ago, I was going to marry Marie before discovering she was cheating on me. And now, a year later, I'm about to get married. It's crazy, I know, but there are reasons for it. The first reason is that she's the right person. I've known her as long as I've known myself, and sometimes I feel like I know her better than I know myself, even though I understand it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Both she and I can change according to life circumstances, and there's no guarantee. I've read so many stories of people who thought they knew their partners for 20 years, and one day, they discovered they were deceived. I'm not naive enough to believe that knowing someone and loving them is enough. Families. My family is doing well. I no longer live with them, but I go back to the neighborhood several times a week. I'm no longer in touch with the rest of the family, only my mother and siblings. It's a shame, but that's how it is. Moreover, family is the second reason for this marriage. Between our families, there was a lot of love until they discovered few years ago that Samia and I were in love. This was followed by a lot of drama. It drove our families apart. Samia's family, especially her father, always considered me unworthy and not what he wished for his daughter. This year, things changed a bit. When they found out we were back together, I think they either resigned themselves or perhaps they knew we were ready to cut ties if necessary. The only thing they asked of us was to have a religious wedding ceremony before living together. Samia and I discussed it, and frankly, for over 10 years, they've tried to separate us. If that's the price to pay, we'll gladly do it. It was our intention anyway. So now, I'm searching for an original way to formally propose. Marie. She didn't make things easy. When she asked me to help her become a better person, I initially wanted to accept, but I thought I might get stuck in that situation without an exit strategy. So, I eventually decided to cut all contact with her. She wasn't happy about that, and when she learned that I was dating Samia, apparently she couldn't handle the news well and ended up in a hospital. I don't know more about it because I didn't contact her or her family. In fact, that's why I chose to move permanently, because they said it was Samia's and my fault. From what I've heard, her family decided to move somewhere else to give her a fresh start in a new environment. That's all I know. So, this wasn't an exciting update, but honestly, I much prefer a quiet life to the drama of last summer.